how to make fresh sauce. Well, we come back from the market with a minimum of 25 pounds of tomatoes here, and these are beautiful Roma tomatoes that are just gorgeous. They delicious to taste. They're in season here in Florida, and they're beautiful. Now we have to wash them and clean them. Okay, we got them out of the box. We're going to put them in big containers, and we're going to wash them. We're getting ready to come up for the canning operation. We want to make sure after their water evaporates from the can, we're ready to can. We're using bell jars and bell lids, and I want to make sure that everybody understands there's a couple methods for canning. Now, we're using a particular cold method. There are other methods, and I strongly advise you to follow the directions on how to can tomatoes. Now, whichever method you choose, it's up to you. But we're using a simple method just through the dishwasher and boiling the lids. Mixer here. Now, as far as the tomatoes, once we get them cleaned and washed, we're going to need another pot to slice them in half and another place to put the scraps. We want to take out the core where the stem comes out, slice them in half and take that end core out. All right, we also are putting the lids in a water bath to bring it up to a boil for about 5 minutes. Then turn it off and let them sit there till we're ready to use them. Now, we're going to continue with the tomatoes, cutting out that core, as you can see. Now, this is where you could use a couple extra hands because this is labor intensive. We take a good paddle or a wooden spoon, and this is a little muscular, a little muscle has to be put out here to move these tomatoes and let them boil down. Because if they stick, then you're going to get burnt tomatoes and you might as well throw them all out. So we want to keep it turning. You'll see there it's taking a little bit of effort to move those around. But once it starts to cook and it produces its own juices, that will boil down. And the goal here is to reduce the water in there. Now, here we have the attachment. Okay, it's a very simple thing. It has about 4 or 5 parts where we put the shaft, the drive shaft in a minute. It goes into the machine, in the front side of the machine. There's the drive shaft. There's a certain end, the square end goes in the back. Okay, we've lined that up, slipped that in. Then we have the corkscrew part that will feed the tomatoes through the machine, and that goes in right like that. And then we have the cap that we have the strainer. The strainer aligns with a lock nut and a locks like that on, and we screw that down in. Now we're lucky the machine comes with its own tool for tightening that nut. Now you don't want to tighten it too much, but you want to keep it from leaking. So there it is. We put that thing on there, give it a little bit of a turn just to make sure that's on nice and snug, and then we put this into the machine with the part that's extending, that's the drive shaft, into my KitchenAid professional stand-up mixer, which I love to death. Okay, now there's a nut on the side of that tightens the whole system in. Okay, once we got that fastened onto the mixer, now we're going to put our drip over tray in there, and this is, I would highly recommend having that. That is extra from the attachment. Now, with the attachment is a shield that goes across the top that prevents all the juice from flying all over the kitchen. That's something that's needed. Now, the other thing is that you're going to need is some good pots, and depending on what kind of pots you have, because there's 2 kinds of things that are going to come out of this mixer. One is the pulp, and the other one is the juice. And of course, you want to dry your basil wash and dry your basil ahead of time. So again, we're constantly stirring. We keep one person on the stove stirring as that evaporation. If you notice on the pot how much water has evaporated in only a few minutes. So you want to keep that down to a low cook, medium cook rather. And once we've gotten about 75% of that water out of there, we put it in a strainer and we try to strain any additional waters out of those tomatoes. and we're almost ready to put it into the machine on about a speed of number 2 on my KitchenAid. And now we're going to remove those seeds and those skins from those tomatoes, and it's going to come out as liquid from one end, that'll be the sauce, and pulp from the other end of the machine. So you have to line up your pots accordingly. And if you notice, there it is. There's some of the stuff coming out. We're getting it lined up, and it's a little bit of a mess to do that, but plan ahead. Try it out a couple times. It's not that hard. You just got to get the right size pot. And you'll notice the skins and the tomato is coming out the back end of the machine, or the front end of the machine, I guess that is. Through the strainer, it's being pushed and pushed through that grater. Now we continue to add the tomatoes to the drip tray. We continue to push or aid in pushing them down into the machine a little bit, giving them a little bit of help. Now this machine will also work for making sausage and other stuff, but it is great for fruits and vegetables and taking pulp and seeds out. So once you get these pots aligned and the stuff starts coming out, you're on the downward slide. Got one guy on the stove, keeps turning the tomatoes, and then you separate the tomatoes from the juice, and then you run them through the machine. A little bit of salt in the mixture, that's all we have in here, just salt and the tomatoes. Okay, now cleanup is really easy with this machine. You just run it under warm water. You could use a little bit of soap in there and cleans. Look at all that pulp that was still left in the machine. Now we did run the pulp that came out of that machine through there twice, and we got an extra 10% probably. Now once that's finished, we've separated the seeds. We add the one good section of basil into the tomato, and we let them sit. And we continually let it stay on warm, and we're trying to get some more liquid out of the sauce. Now this is just liquid in here with the pulp. And there we go. You see how we're at a nice boil and it's coming on down. We're going to reduce that down probably another 15-20%, and so that it'll be just tomato sauce. Now our tomato sauce right now only has salt in it and the sprig of basil. Okay, no pepper, no other seasonings. Now some people do, but we just want to make the sauce so that you can, at a later date, when you can this, you can figure out what you want to do with it. So you notice it's coming down a little bit. We're going to let it go a little more.
I'm going to put the basil in the jar.
Okay. And why are we going to put the basil in the jar?
To make it taste good with the tomatoes.
That's right, that's right. Tomatoes and basil, they were made for each other. There we go. Oh, yes, okay. The cup. Okay, Angelina, thank you so much for helping us. You did a great job here. That's super. Now we're filling up our quart Bell canning jars, and as we do, we're going to fill them up within about a ½ inch to a 3/4 of an inch from the top, from the thread line. And I can't emphasize the fact they have to be clean. Run them through the dishwasher and get them clean. Make sure those lids are not touched. Use tongs on the lids. Screw the lids on and screw them on nice and tight with a piece of basil in each jar. Now, thank you for watching this, and I hope to see you guys back again. Cooking with Papa Vinny. You have a good one.